Hi there, I'm Professor Juris, and I wanted to make you a quick video and go over methods to produce negatives for alternative processes for non-silver printing, like cyanotype, Van Dyke Brown, platinum palladium, gum bichromate, and so forth. So all these processes are contact printing processes, meaning you don't use an enlarger to make the print. Meaning that the size of the negative that you have is going to be the size of the picture, because this image, this negative, is actually contact printed on top of the piece of paper that you've coated with the specific photographic emulsion of your choice. So you have to have negatives that are the same size as the prints that you want. And those can vary in this class, and it'll be up to you to choose which size you want to use. When you choose for your final portfolio, you want to make sure that you choose the same size, that you don't have a variation. But in the beginning, as you're working, if you wanted to try a few different methods of producing negatives, you certainly can. So let me start with the digital, because the digital is one that a lot of students choose. But one important thing in choosing the digital, and I've learned this from students that have wasted their time and wasted their money, so it's just like maybe a word of advice, is if you do not have a digital printer, and a good digital photo printer, let me say that, you have to have a good digital photo printer, and you pretty much have to have Photoshop on your computer in order to do this. If you don't have those two options, I mean, you can acquire them, get a hold of them, and be able to do it this way. But if you don't have them, then I wouldn't choose this method. If you have a printer that you bought at the big box store for $99, that's not a good printer. You may make a print on a piece of typing paper that you think is great, but it has to have high quality in order to make negatives. If it doesn't have that, the negatives won't come out good. So, just please trust me on that. So, but if you do have that, what you can do is get some Pinhole film, and you can get this through B&H Photo or through Bostwick and Sullivan. And then you can take your digital files that you've made with your, digital camera, open them up in Photoshop, and then you can transfer it, change it into a negative by inverting it, adjust the curves for whichever type of process you're going to be using, and then print this out as a negative on top of the piece of Pinhole, and you can use this in your contact printing frame then to produce gorgeous prints. This has come so far in the past, say, 10 years that it's incredible that you can make digital negatives if you have a good printer that resemble film. So I mean, it's great if you have that. Now, if you don't have it, if you're taking this class just for fun and you just wanted to learn a couple things, then you might not want to invest in a printer. But if you're actually want to be a photographer, you want to be a photographic artist, now is the time to acquire the equipment. So get yourself a good printer, get yourself a good computer, get yourself Photoshop, and that'll help you to produce prints that are gorgeous. And I guess it just depends on how serious you are about this. So this is one way to produce it. Now, another way to produce negatives digitally, and the quality is not the same. The quality is, if this is a 10 in quality, the quality maybe is like 2 or 3. I would say more closer to 2 would be if you have a laser printer at home, a black and white laser printer. And if you have a black and white laser printer, what you can do is you could get some of this 3M laser printing film, and you can change your photographic digital image in your computer again to a negative, and then print it out on laser film. Now, the difference between the two is the tonal range. With the laser printer, you're almost getting a high contrast kind of image, where with the tonal value that you would get with an inkjet negative is much more tremendous. You get a lot. You could get probably 150 different tones in this negative made with an inkjet printer, whereas when you go to a laser printer, you might be getting 10 tones if you're lucky. Depending upon the photograph and how good the laser printer is. I mean, even if it's a cheap laser printer, you might just get 2 tones, black and white. If it picks up any tonal difference in the thing, you might be lucky if you get 10, but that's a big if too. So those are primarily, I think, that the two methods for producing digital negatives. I should also mention the printer that I use, if you're looking for one. They don't actually make this model anymore, but you could probably find one on eBay, or find the next model up, the one that Epson proceeded with after the 3800. The 3880 is the Epson printer that I use, and it's extraordinary. So if you find something in that range, that's making really high quality inkjet negatives is a way to go. So if you don't do that, there's a lot of other methods to produce negatives. So let's look at film. Probably again, if you're not really all that serious and you just want to make some pictures, a method you can use is with a Holga camera. So you can get this cheap plastic camera. It's available at the school bookstore. It's available at B&H Photo. It's available at a number of different places, and it'll give you a 2 1/4 size negative. Let me see if I have a 2 1/4 negative here. That size, that you can make little gem-like quality prints with. Again, I wouldn't do this with a 35 millimeter. They're just too small, but this would be probably the smallest negative that you'd want to print would be with a Holga camera. And again, sometimes it really does lend itself to these, the Holga camera lends itself to these alternative processes. Like I've seen portfolios that students have made with palladium printing and Van Dyke Brown printing, that on their specific subject, if the subject lends itself to those processes and the camera lends itself to, you could come up with a really gorgeous portfolio. But it's just getting the whole combination together. So let's jump to the next size up then. So when I was first getting into photography, one of the things I got started in very early was large format photography. And by large format, you're talking about a 4x5 size negative going up to an 8x10 size negative. So this is a 4x5 size negative, and I have thousands of prints that I've made with a 4x5 view camera that I've made, pictures with these negatives. So these are ideal for printing like palladium prints and Van Dyke Browns, cyanotypes. They're just gorgeous, the quality that you get from this. So here's an 8x10 negative shot with my 8x10 view camera. So you can see this produces, extraordinary pictures, because again, it's contact printed. So the quality of the negative that you have is going to determine the quality of the print. So, how do you get negatives like this? Well, there's two different ways that you can get large format negatives. One is to get yourself a view camera. This was my first view camera that I actually purchased from Calumet. It's a Calumet view camera. I don't believe they have these anymore, but you can find a lot of little different variations on view cameras to get you started if you wanted to do this. And it's a big endeavor to get into this, but if you set your mind to it, you'll just get extraordinary quality images once you've learned to master this camera and develop the film and everything, and you'll actually love this. And this is great if you want to become a photographic artist. These are not used very much in the industry anymore, and the whole industry has changed tremendously because of digital photography. And so, this is one way to do this. You could also do things like alter cameras. You could get one of these box cameras if you find one, and you can find these at flea markets, mostly in thrift stores, probably specialty stores that sell like antiques and stuff is probably the easiest place to find these. Sometimes you'll find them. I actually got this one at a thrift store, but some people donated them when they're cleaning out their attic, but you know, that was probably 10, 15 years ago. So they're not as easy to find in a thrift store anymore, but you can also find them online. Some people sell them on Craigslist, on eBay. There's always a lot of these on eBay. So, and what you would do with this is you would actually have to set this up, do a little work on it so that you could put a sheet of 4x5 film in it, and then you would take it outside and shoot it. You could get an empty 4x5 film box and take a film changing bag and, you know, change your film out in the field. Like if you went somewhere, if you went out to, you know, some location, you wouldn't want to like have to drive all the way back to change your film. So by having a film changing bag and a box to put the exposed film in, you could take a new piece of film out, put a new piece of film in here, and you could also adapt these to take film holders. So in a 4x5 film holder, and if you watch my video that are online about using a 4x5 view camera, that'll give you more information about what I'm talking about, like with a film holder. But this is one way, and this again would take a little bit of work if you wanted to produce 4x5 negatives with this. But another way is simply to get yourself a 4x5 pinhole camera, and B&H Photo sells a number of these, and there's also a ton of these for sale on eBay. And this one here is a Leonardo, but it simply takes a 4x5 film holder in the back of it. So you can get a number of 4x5 film holders. This is just a piece of board, but the way it works is you put the film holder down in the back of it, and then you would have this on a tripod, and you simply, that's your shutter right there. You simply lift this up, expose the picture for the right amount of time, and then close it. And if you do choose to go the pinhole method, I've seen absolutely gorgeous, stunning pinhole images made. A few I've made myself, but I've seen a lot out there that other photographers make that are just gorgeous. And one of the things that it takes is it takes a proper pinhole. So it's a lot more, you know, than actually just sticking a pin through a piece of tin. If you look on the internet how to make a pinhole camera, there's a lot of people out there that show you just get a sewing needle and poke it through a piece of tin. You can do that, but the quality is usually not that great with that type of pinhole. If you take your time and look at it and actually make a really good pinhole, and you do a lot of experimenting, it takes a lot of work to make your own, but you could also just, you know, buy one. And these things are so cheap right now, you know, on eBay for used ones that it's almost worth just investing in one that's already made. But you can make your own, and you can make your own a couple different ways. One way that that I found to make really cool pinhole cameras is out of cigar boxes. If you go to the store like Arrow Wine or one of the cigar stores where they sell cigars, you can usually buy these boxes for around $5, $10, and then you could take and transform this into a pinhole camera. And I could have a whole nother video on that, on how to make pinhole cameras, but there's a ton of them out there on eBay right now, but I don't know if there's any about making one out of a cigar box. But this is one of my favorite choices for making pinhole cameras, is using a cigar box. Other things you can use is like a Quaker Oats can. If you got a Quaker Oats can, you can make that into a pinhole camera, and those actually tend to look like a wide angle, because when you put the piece of 8x10 film into the Quaker Oats can, it's bent, it's curved, and when it comes out, it's just gorgeous. And again, the key is, though, having a really good pinhole. You know, otherwise you're wasting your time, and it'll take you some experimenting with you know, exposing and developing and everything to get everything just right. But once you do that, then you can you know, hit the ground running if you have all this worked out already. So that's another method. And then again, by doing that, it's a question of what you want. Do you want a 4x5 negative, or do you want an 8x10 negative? Well, the 8x10 costs a lot more. You know, the film costs a lot more. You're going to use more developer and so forth. But the quality, I mean, there's second to none. So I guess at this point, you know, I was going to go on this this whole path about intent right now and talking about, you know, how serious you are about this. But let me just leave it at this, is that, you know, if you really are into photography, I mean, this is the way to go, is to you know, go with quality. Don't you know, try to be cheap about it. You know, spend your money on things that are important to you. And if photography is important to you, that's where you will spend your money at. Now, another way that's kind of very similar to using a laser jet printer is to use the ortholithofilm in the darkroom that you use to for photo 2 for your ortholitho assignment. And this film, when developed in Dectal, will give you a little bit more tonal range than a laser jet printer would. So just printing black and white laser jets on laser jet transparency, again, like I said, is pretty much just black and white. You get zebra looking prints. Whereas with the ortholithofilm, by making the negatives correctly, you'll end up with some tonal range, but again, it's nowhere near film. You know, this might have 15 to 30 tones of gray in it, you know, from black to white, or where a negative can have 150. So you get a lot more quality out of shooting film. And then one other alternative I'd show you would be this 3D printed camera that I got from the Pinhole resource that actually takes 120 roll film, similar to the Holga. But the difference is with this negative, you actually end up getting a very long negative that, again, tends to print very gorgeous on alternative processes. So my choices, let's go over the choices that I've gone over again. So my choice, my preference is film. Film will give you the best images that you can get, followed by a high quality inkjet negative. So a high quality inkjet negative, actually they're pretty balanced as to quality right now. They weren't 10, 15 years ago, but they've come to a point where the quality is outstanding, especially with companies like Pictorico that developed a specific film for this, for making negatives. So if you have a good inkjet printer, you can go that route. You can go the route of film, and you can go with a simple method like this with the Pinhole camera that'll produce gorgeous images, and or you could get yourself a view camera if you wanted to start to actually use a view camera and produce a lot of negatives that way. So there's this whole array of things that you can do. You can either do it digitally, you can do it with film, or you can do it in the darkroom with ortholithofilm to come up with a negative. But you will need to have negatives for this class, so it's important, I think, that you hit the ground running and decide on a process to start with at least. Like, let's say you want to just get started, you could get your Holga camera and start shooting pictures that way and see if, and processing the negatives and making some prints, just to kind of get the basics down of making the prints. And then if you kind of like this and what's going on, you might think, well, I really want to make some better quality negatives. Then you could get yourself maybe a view camera, or get yourself a Pinhole camera that takes 4x5 sheet film. They even make these to take 8x10 film. So, I mean, you could get an 8x10 Pinhole camera that'll make just gorgeous negatives for you. So you don't want to rule all these things out. I mean, you want to look at all the alternatives, and again, don't look for the easiest. This is about learning. You're in college to learn, not to get the degree. So if the more time you put into doing all these things, and this is where your energy should be when you're in college, is producing work and producing great work. So go out there and get them. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. And then smash the subscribe button if you want to follow me on YouTube. Thank you.